like we have reached the top of the hour here, so I'll go ahead and get us started. First and foremost, I'd like to say hello to everyone and welcome to our third installment of the virtual town hall series. My name is Deanna Fenton and I am the program manager here at the Alliance. Now, for those of you who are unaware, the Alliance Virtual Town Hall Series was established to highlight successful OPO and transplant program relationships and the resulting donation and transplant outcomes. This particular virtual town hall will focus on creating an organizational culture of donation. Now, before we begin today's presentation, I'd just like to take the next few minutes to review a few minor details about the program. Upon joining the meeting, you may have noticed that your audio lines were muted. To ensure that we're able to hear our speakers clearly, we'd like to keep the lines muted for the duration of the town hall presentation. If you have any questions that come up during the course of the program, we'd like to ask that you submit them using the chat feature. Now, for those of you who are new to the Zoom platform, the chat feature is located at the very bottom of your Zoom browser. There's a bright green button, and right next to that, you should see a chat feature. So you can submit your questions there. Please note, however, all questions will be held at the end for our Q&A period. Now, for anyone who may be curious about continuing education credits, please note that there will be no credits offered for attending today's program. However, all participants are eligible to claim a certificate of attendance. So following the conclusion of today's presentation, you will all receive an email with outlined instructions on how to claim your certificate. If you have any issues, please don't hesitate to contact a member of the Alliance team. As an added note, we will be recording today's presentation. So to access and view the recording of today's town hall, please visit our website at organdonationalliance.org. Now, with that being said, at this point, I'd like to introduce our moderator, Joanne Brooks, the interim clinical nursing director at Michigan Medicine Transplant Center. Joanne, thank you so much for joining us today. And at this point, I'll go ahead and turn it over to you to introduce our speakers.
Thank you, everyone. Our speakers today are Sande Egnor. She is a clinical nurse manager for the Charleston Area Medical Center Neuroscience Intensive Care Unit. She has worked for 30 years in various roles in critical care, nursing, and including trauma and medical intensive care unit. She has served as co-chair of the Organizational Donor Advisory Group since 2012. And she's a lifelong resident of West Virginia and enjoys traveling the state with her family. The other speaker is Christy Conley. She is the Community Outreach Coordinator for the Center for Organ Recovery and Education and has spent nearly 20 years in the nonprofit industry in a variety of roles. She began her career with CORE in 2012. She currently covers 49 counties in West Virginia to increase the state's donor designation registry through education and awareness. Along with her duties at CORE, she also serves as the Donate Life West Virginia state team leader, is a part-time travel agent, and enjoys spending time outdoors with her husband and 2 dogs. Ladies?
Well, hello everyone, and thank you for joining us. Sounds like we might have a little reverb, so hopefully we won't be too bad with that. So today we want to talk about really, trying to promote this collaboration between all of our organizations. And so just a little rundown of Charleston Area Medical Center. They are a level 1 trauma center. They also have a kidney transplant center here on site. They have heart and vascular. They are a primary stroke center as well. And then we also have a women and children's campus. So 4 campuses in all with about 7,500 employees. And they also are a university teaching facility. And one of their claims to fame is in 2015, they won the Malcolm Baldrige Award. So for Center for Organ Recovery and Education, we are an organ procurement organization. We serve Western PA and most of West Virginia. We are headquartered in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, and we'll just get right into the objectives today. So our objectives are that we really want to share with you and hope that you can walk away with some key items of learning for collaboration and communication between the organ procurement organization, transplant program, and obviously donor hospitals. Also, we're going to take a little bit of time to describe the initiatives that, help us really have that culture of donation, and then also utilizing the techniques to create a nursing education program that improves donation and the outcomes for donation itself. So I'm going to turn this over to Sande and let her chat just a little bit about collaboration and communication.
Well, I would say, first of all, we have a historical relationship with CORE, and really everything that we've done as far as our promoting donation here at our 4-campus hospital system has been based on the history that we have with CORE. It's one of the longest running relationships that we have with any outside, I don't want to say vendor, but outside collaboration outside of our system. The other thing that we've always done is we never really separated donation and transplant. We were a transplant center. Our primary donor hospital is the Neuro-Ortho-Trauma Center, which also houses the transplant center. So if you saw someone from CORE, you saw someone from the hospital side as far as donation or transplant. They are involved in everything that we do to promote donation. We always have a colleague from transplant, so we consistently show up as a team. And I think, Christy, that's really led to building that culture of donation here.
Yeah, absolutely. Because not only are we, building a culture within the hospital, but we're building a relationship with one another as people. And I think that it's really great to, I guess, almost call us friends, because we do have that opportunity to really call upon and support one another throughout, these events that we're doing, and really trying to work through some of the challenges. Sande and I talked at one time when we were doing some planning of this and saying, everything's not perfect. And when it's not perfect, you really need to have that relationship that you can go to that individual or group of individuals and say, okay, how can we fix it? So I think that that is something that we've really done very well within this team.
And I would like to give a nod to our leadership from both organizations. They've never said no to anything that the team decided on as an activity, as a donor awareness event, as an educational intervention. Our leadership from both organizations has always been behind us. Never a question about how much is it going to cost, as you find in larger organizations. How much time is it going to take? We just always have that commitment from our leadership that this is our mission, and we're going to work on it until we achieve the outcomes that we set out to achieve. And I just think that support among both organizations and that partnership has been invaluable.
Yeah, and I think that that's, one of the things that's really important with this initiative is that, you have to have buy-in. And sometimes it's difficult to get that until everybody kind of realizes. So it's really important to have everybody on the same page, I think.
And again, I would say they support us no matter how crazy our ideas are, which when we started this course that we're going to discuss, it was sort of a crazy idea, but they put the full weight of our hospital administration and CORE's leadership behind it. They invested in me as a critical care nurse, in mentoring me in everything about donation. CORE has been a great partner and a great mentor for me. And I know sometimes they think that I'm part of the CORE staff, and it goes both ways. Our administrator for donor and transplant services, he says when he sees us together, sometimes he can't remember who works for CORE and who's actually Charleston Area Medical Center staff.
Right. And, just by looking at this slide that we have up, one of the things that I think really helped us build this relationship, without reinventing the wheel, was the fact that we have the hospital challenge, the HRSA hospital challenge. So, for those of us or for those individuals that are on this webinar, that's a really great place to start. Get your key people to the table. and really encourage them to participate in the hospital challenge. It's a really great opportunity to find ways to connect. And then the hospital gets recognition as well, and sometimes that's the selling point. That they see a benefit to that collaboration. So, absolutely wanting to kind of plug that opportunity as well.
And as a nod to our transplant center, I know Christy and I are representing all the groups today, but our transplant centers show up in force at all of our events. It's not just about being a transplant center. They're there to support the donor efforts and recognize those donor families and promote that awareness. And I think that adds tremendous strength to our team.
Absolutely.
Some of the techniques that we utilized at CAMC, we follow DMAIC methodology for our problem solving and data analysis. We did have to go back and mend some relationships when we started back in 2011 and 2012. We allowed those things to happen formally and informally. People could talk about cases that maybe didn't work out or have the outcome that was desired by either party. We could talk about frustrations, and we went to our separate corners and we came out friends, and we decided back then, with the support of our leadership, that we would always show up as a team. And
that really helps establish the credibility, that we are all on the same team. We want to heal and save lives, and in order to do that, you have to have some sort of collaboration and communication. It's important.
Yeah.
So, and then I know that you really spend a lot of time trying to figure out, what do nurses want when they're getting education? And again, really just driving home that buy-in from leadership from both organizations in this nurses training. And I know, Sande, you put so much time in really trying to build a program that made a difference, and nurses could really walk away with some key and meaningful opportunities to help in that culture.
Yeah. And again, our leadership didn't say no. They allowed us to meet weekly. And first, I'll go back a little bit. CORE sponsored me, sent me to the National Learning Congress many years ago. And one of our physicians was able to go. Of course, the team from CORE went. We came back and we tried to figure out how we would engage the nurses. And from that inspiration, we started talking about, nurses like certifications. They like to take ACLS and PALS and study for their CCRN. And we thought, well, maybe we could create a course that's hospital-based and allow them to develop that expertise and get that recognition as a way to get their buy-in and to have them as truly as full participants in our donor program here at CAMC. So we met weekly. We employed experts from all the fields, nursing, quality, administration, legal, of course, our experts from CORE. And we wanted to leave no question unanswered, so that when they left the course, anything that they wanted to know about donation. And for us, our transplant surgeon actually is permanent faculty, so that they could see the other side and how organs are allocated and truly what the need is, down to what the need is in the county that they live in. So our first class was held in 2014, and now it's all for twice a year.
Twice a year, yep. And it's a really great opportunity. So, really looking at kind of a comparison about, where we started and where we are now. So Sande and I, and maybe you folks out there in the listening world have heard the voluntold. Folks were really assigned to come to this class. There really wasn't a lot of, oh, would you like to go?
Managers demanded that some of their staff attend.
Yeah, absolutely. So, and of course, as you can imagine, there was some initial resistance, staff not really wanting to go to a class that they really weren't very sure of, and maybe they had some some not so great opinions of donations. So, that was something that we had to overcome as well. And really, there wasn't any CEUs offered formally at the very beginning. And so, really just trying to use this class to give them the opportunity to help overall building that culture of donation and really preventing process breakdowns, which, obviously it really affects your organ yield per donor ratio. So really, trying to find ways that we could make that a little bit better. And so currently, as you heard, we do offer it twice a year. We work with, as Sandy said, all the experts, trying to get people in here to really help us, provide those answers to questions. Because we don't have all the answers. Sandy and I, we try really hard to have as many answers as we can have for people who are looking, but it's really great to have all of the entities here to really talk about those questions that come up. And you're like, oh gosh, I'm not sure if I know the answer to that, so it's good.
We have a critical care physician who does the session on brain death, so that there's no question unanswered. They look at films, they go over brain death testing, and we've added that actually to our simulation course, so they'll get even more hands-on experience. We felt like the more experts that we could have by way of presenting and participating, it just gave us more credibility for our course. It wasn't just a critical care nurse or a core representative offering you some information. We have experts in the field.
Absolutely. And I think one of the really great things that we see coming out of this really are the donation champions, the champions that are on these units. Because as we were preparing, we talked about the fact that, nurses know who those people are on their unit, and they go to them when they have questions. And that's a really great component of this training, that people feel like, oh, okay, I don't know the answer to that, but I know that our donation champion has the answer to that. So that's always really good. And really the opportunity for nurses to have buy-in by way of work plans and really helping to create, and adopt new processes by which donation happens here. And I know, Sandy, you're going to talk a little bit about the eye care program and how that happens, but there are a lot of really great things that have come out of this class. And this class is really, really something that people are clamoring over. They people want to take it, and sometimes we run out of rooms.
We have to turn folks away, regrettably.
Right. So it's been a really great opportunity when you go from voluntold to I can't wait to take that class. That's a huge difference. And overall, it's really helped with increased referrals for donors. And obviously, as you can imagine, more referrals typically means increased organ yield. So it's been a great opportunity. So I'm going to let Sandy talk a little bit about the evaluations of the course and kind of what this slide means.
These were the most recent evaluations that we had of our course. And in the past year, we added simulation to the course. And the simulations were taken from actual cases within our 4-campus medical center. And we typically, at every course, we have representation. I think there are 9 critical care units within the Charleston Area Medical Center system, and they're all represented. So we have a good group there. But these were our evaluations as to how the simulation portion and the didactic portion, their evaluations. And you can see there we got great evaluations.
Right. People really felt like the addition to this simulation was really realistic. And I think one of the things that you and I had talked about was the fact that, not all hospitals in the 4 campuses have the opportunity to really experience donation firsthand. And so this really gave nurses that opportunity to see it and build that confidence to go back to their hospitals and really work on that.
They have a safe place. I mean, the scenarios don't all work out with everyone becoming an organ donor. We have challenges with families. There are There's a simulation where they're challenged by a physician, but it's amazing to see how the nurses, in the reality and safety of the simulation center, they slip into the roles. They become that charge nurse or that bedside advocate.
Yeah.
And based on the information, the course is designed with, they have a day of didactic, and then the second day is a test review, and the rest of the day spent in the sim lab. So they actually take that information that they've learned and that they're empowered by, and they process through things and put it to work in the sim center.
And really work as a team too,
Yeah.
which is great.
Yeah.
So, and as you can see, the second line of the benefit, of the chart that we're looking at, the benefits that nurses felt were very high. So I think that's a great piece. And then really, looking overall at the projected impact on the competency and the patient outcomes. So you can see that, that has also increased based on what the nurses really feel like they're going to be able to go back to their units and use.
Yeah.
So I think that's great. And then really, let's talk a little bit about the improvements, because it's been a long and winding road, as the Beatles may say, and it's been something that we've worked together as a team to try to improve upon what nurses want, what they need, and things that we see that could really help the program grow.
And what other employees want. We, you run into challenges in the donation world. I know Christy can echo my concerns there with all of our disciplines. So with the use of our simulation center and the success that we've had with nurses, we're now getting requests from respiratory therapy, pharmacy, surgery, and we're hoping to expand the course and design sessions around specific needs of the different disciplines. I know so far they've worked with physicians and nurse practitioners, and we hope following our November course we'll have some work around offering that to the disciplines that I mentioned.
Right, absolutely. So, some of the other, improvements, obviously the simulation was a huge improvement. A couple of years we've been doing that now.
Yes.
So it's been really great to see this evolution of this class and how people are using that to really better the outcomes overall.
And we've been following the metrics, and Christy will review our slides. We've had some up and down periods, but we've never went below our initial benchmark, which was for organ yield per donor, which was 2.5, and you can speak to our referrals.
Yeah, so I think everybody realizes that, there's always ups and downs. Sande, talked a little bit about some of the down, unfortunately, was when we were in the height of the opioid crisis here in West Virginia. And while that, in some instances did help produce more donors, it didn't necessarily yield more organs. So that's some of the up and down that you see. But as Sande said, we've really maintained growth within that 2.5 margin that we started with.
Stayed above.
Yeah, absolutely. So you can see on the first chart there, it's the referrals for system by year, and then your organ yield by donor chart there on the second side. And then I think we just wanted to kind of talk about some further outcomes, kind of where we were, where we're hoping to go. Again, you can see we talked about the yield organ increase. We really increased the number of donors from our cardiovascular hospital and campus. In 2008, it was nearly 50% increase. And that really goes back and talks about this class and how these nurses were coming and learning that there are options for donation when they may have thought not at some point. So
typically our patients at that hospital are the sicker patients than at the neuro-ortho trauma hospital. And, they came to the class thinking, well, our patients wouldn't have an opportunity to donate, but we teach them how to identify, how to care for the potential donor. And again, increased by 50%.
Yeah, and I think the main thing that they leave with this course is that while they are medical professionals, we don't have all the answers about what can be donated, who can donate, and so the important part is referral, referral, referral. Always refer, and then let the transplant professionals figure out if it's a viable transplantation. So I think that that's really helped also with those outcomes, and really just continuing to promote that culture of donation throughout development of a true nursing experience and expertise that other nurses can go to, like we talked about earlier, and really implementation of performance improvements, really helping make that a better outcome. And then, so within this class, we have the opportunity for work groups within the class to work and be able to bring new processes to their units. So here is an improvement implementation cycle. And Sandy, you want to talk a little bit about how this works within your systems?
Yeah, and I'll give a nod to our organization. The course is approved for 16 continuing education credits for our nurses. It's free to any of our employees who take the course. They pay the nurses for the time spent in the course. And another nod to our faculty, they all donate their time. But the nurses meet in small groups and they sort of brainstorm about what the issues are in their particular units, be it a CCU or a neuro ICU. They all have some common issues. They go through a problem-solving exercise, and then we meet with them the following day, and they present their projects. Many of them have presented projects that go on to be disseminated throughout our medical center. One of those was around eye care. We were seeing opportunities to improve the care of corneas. So a nurse took that on. She researched the literature, looked at best practice. She made a project for her unit, and that practice was disseminated throughout the medical center, and we did see an improvement in our eye care and our ability for cornea donation. Another one is they created an alert system through the electronic medical record that would alert them when a patient met clinical triggers, and would also alert them when they needed to document or call in a referral. Sadly, we switched to a new EMR and that went away. Hopefully, we'll be able to work within our new system and create that. But those are some examples of the things that they created. They created new grad classes around organ donation. We actually have a couple of nurses who come back and participate as faculty in our class. And these were nurses that were voluntold to come, and they've totally converted, and they're identified throughout the organization now as donor advocates. That's really heartwarming to see that turnaround.
Absolutely, it really is. It really goes a long ways in helping to build that trust. I think it's a trust, and really building that trust between the organizations, and also giving nurses that confidence to be able to understand the process and use the process and trust the process as well. Yeah. So it's a great opportunity. But Sandy and I, I guess it's a cliche to say teamwork makes the dream work, but it really does. And through that, we're able to heal and save more lives, and that's really the important thing. It's what we're all trying to do here. And so, just to reiterate, the essential members of our particular team, where we have consistent representation, is the Organ Procurement Organization, really your donor champions within the hospital, your donor hospitals, and then the transplant center. So, we really do strive to show up together and have a unified front when we have challenges and when we have celebrations. We want to do that together. And some of the things that, we're doing out in the community, which makes a huge difference. We're trying to do, we do rounding as a group We have some of our donor advisory group members that go out and we're doing, rounding and at different units and talking about, their successes and thanking them for the work that they're doing and really just try to recognize them. And one of the really great stories that, we were talking about as we were preparing is we had a young lady who had received a heart transplant. And before that happened, though, she was actually treated at one of CAMC's campuses. And so when we took her back to round with these nurses, they knew her and they were so relieved that, she had gotten her heart. A lot of times when you think about critical care, the individuals who are caring for these folks don't always see the outcomes. They don't always know like what happened to that patient. And us as an procurement organization really is trying to do better with that by sending letters to the unit managers for them to share where their donors' organs went to and really who they were able to save. So I think that, a lot of those things have really helped solidify our relationship on the units. But really, I think the key point here is really showing up on the same team with the same purpose and together.
Our transplant colleagues are always with us when we do our events, when we do our rounding, when we do our donor registration events. Our colleagues from the Transplant Center are ever present. And Christy talked about our rounding. We try to theme our rounding every year. We try to have a different theme for every month. And the Heart Recipient Month was a Thankful Heart, and we focused our rounding at our cardiovascular center. So again, thinking of those things that drive home that message that it matters. We may round with a kidney recipient at our transplant hospital.
Right.
So again, the nurses can see that the work that they do matters to someone.
That's right. Absolutely. Well, with that being said, I think that we're at the question portion of our event. So do we have any questions on the line? I think Glenn may have shared something with the group. So whoever's going to ask us the questions, we're ready.
Well, first and foremost, thank you, Sandy and Christy, for such a fantastic presentation. Before I turn it back to Joanne to moderate the questions, just as a reminder for everyone, if you have any questions for our presenters, if you can please submit them using the chat feature. Again, that's going to be located at the very bottom of your Zoom screen. There should be a button located right next to the bright green share button. You can use that to pose your questions. So we look forward to receiving those. I do see a few have been submitted already. So with that, I'll go ahead and turn it back to Joanne to pose those questions. Thank you.
Great.
Okay, the first question we have is, what part of the donation process is included in your simulation?
We have the patient arriving on the unit. The referral is included. We look for the behaviors that we have lectured on in the previous day in identifying clinical triggers. So that portion, we have an actual person who is on the other end of the phone line, someone from CORE is asking the referral questions, and they go through the referral process. They go through the brain death discussion. This year, we're going to actually have a brain death station with one of our critical care physicians actually performing the brain death testing on one of our standardized players. We did a DCD simulation where we actually rolled the patient down the hall with the staff, with all of the equipment, and we took him into a simulated operating room, and we simulated the interaction among the family and among the team as it would have taken place had we been in the actual operating room. We did a pediatric case. We did a first-person authorization with the family objecting, and how we worked through that process. And we did a hysterical family whose whose loved one came in talking and subsequently deteriorated. So they worked through all of the having to consult the chaplain. They worked through interruptions that happen. We have phones ringing, doors slamming, housekeeping intruding into the conversation.
Physicians who aren't
Yeah.
happy.
Physicians, actually, we have actual physicians who participate who come in and pre-approach, and the staff work through that pre-approach and what actions do you take when that happens, and how do you get the family back on track as far as donation. Does that answer? We try to cover every aspect that we can think of. We present a clinical scenario, and they're asked to identify whether or not this is a referral, or we'll stop the simulation and discuss and prompt them, what can we do if this happens, and kind of take them back to their course information, and then they get back on track and work through the simulation. But we have a total of 4 stations that they work through.
What is your class size?
Our last class size was 22.
The next question is DCD a component of your education and simulation? And what challenges pre-education did you experience, and have your classes helped improve DCD outcomes?
Yes, I think Sandy did say that this last year was the first year that we did DCD, or have we always?
We've always taught the didactic portion of DCD, but
Right.
we added that as a station where the patient that's presented to the staff is a patient who's not ever going to be declared brain dead, but he was a first person authorization. His family didn't know it. So they worked through the physician and the OPC having the discussion with the family. And we actually say, this was your loved one's wish to be an organ donor. And we took them to the operating room, attached to the monitor, the ventilator, and go through drawing the drugs up with, a moment of silence, any requests that the family have. We have had better outcomes with DCD, and I don't have the actual numbers, but I want to say that we have increased our DCD donors, and especially at our cardiovascular hospital, where there is greater opportunity for that form of donation.
Right, and I think we covered in the presentation that in 2018 we had a 50% increase in donors from the cardiovascular campus. So I think that has really been something that's really helped people kind of move through that process.
The staff who go through the course, the ones that really touch them the most are the pediatric donation, and the DCD simulation is very, very realistic and very touching for the staff to go through that.
Any other questions, Joanne?
There are no other questions that have showed up.
Okay. I do want to say one of the things that we didn't add in the presentation, I want to make sure gets included, is something we're adding this year in 2019 is we have not ever included tissue processing. So this year we're inviting a tissue processor to come and do a presentation about how that works. And then also we're going to be having a tissue recipient speak. We have in the past had donor family and a recipient speak to this class, but this year we're going to have tissue recipient as well, because I think that most of us that are in this community realize that tissue donation tends to be a little bit higher of an option sometimes than organs. So we thought that was a really important inclusion to make sure that people understand that tissue is as important as organ donation as well.
A question did just show up. Are you able to share the slides? Deanna, is that possible?
I'm sure we can include a copy of the PowerPoint presentation. We'll probably convert it to PDF format, and we can send that out as long as Sandy and Christy are okay with us sharing that information. We can go ahead and provide that to you all.
Absolutely. I think that's important. You know, our goal here, and I know we talked with the Alliance team, was that we want people to really walk away with some usable pieces from this this opportunity. And you know, we're willing to answer questions beyond this this class if people feel like they just need a little bit more detail.
Our next class is November 12th and 13th. And if anyone would be in Charleston, West Virginia, or want to drive by, we would certainly invite you as a guest to our course. We're really, really proud of the work we've been able to do.
Yeah, and it's an award-winning course as well, isn't it? Through NATCO, maybe?
We were asked to speak at NATCO. We presented the information at the ISODP in 2017, and then organizationally, we've won a quality award twice.
So we're happy to share if anybody wants to try to make it happen.
Well, that is all of the questions that have come in. I want to thank you ladies again. It was for a great presentation and for all your hard work in this collaboration.
Thank you for inviting us.
Yes, thank you so much for inviting us. We really appreciated it and are happy to share our knowledge. I think that, you know, what we've all learned working in the organ procurement, donor, hospital, transplant center world is that, you know, it's just too hard to reinvent the wheel. Let's try to work together and help each other to make it, you know, something awesome. So thank you.
Thank you.
And on behalf of the Alliance, I'd just like to echo Joanne's comments, and we'd like to extend our sincere thanks to you both for such a great discussion on the collaborative nature of your relationship. I think, to your point, it's super important to share all the best practices and learnings that have been identified throughout your processes, and hopefully others can duplicate that in the future. So I thank you both for joining us today and for sharing those comments and notes with us. And I'd also like to thank Joanne for taking the time to join us today as well and doing an amazing job moderating the presentation. So thank you to all three of you ladies. And to our participants, I'd also like to thank you for taking the time to join us today. And we look forward to seeing you on a future town hall series. Thank you all.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, everyone, enjoy the rest of your day.
You too.
Bye.
Bye.